The massive arena on Nexus Prime stretched across the horizon like a crystal mountain. Ships from 1,000 different worlds circled overhead, carrying spectators who had traveled millions of light years to witness the most important fighting tournament in the galaxy. Every 3 years, the strongest warriors from every known species gathered here to prove who deserved to be called the ultimate champion. Commander Jinho Kim pressed his face against the small window of the human transport ship. Below them, the arena complex sparkled with lights and energy shields. Massive screens showed highlights from previous tournaments, creatures with razor-sharp claws tearing through metal, warriors shooting bolts of pure energy that could melt starship hulls, and champions with bodies made of living stone crushing their enemies. "Look at the size of that place," whispered Lee Hannah from the seat beside him. She was small even by human standards, barely reaching Jinho's shoulder, but her eyes held the steady focus of someone who had spent years learning how to hurt people with her bare hands. Their teammate Park Dong-woo floated over in the zero gravity, holding a data pad that glowed with official tournament documents. His face looked grim as he read. "The Galactic Combat Council just sent the final rules. They banned everything." "What do you mean everything?" Jinho asked. "All human weapons. No guns, no knives, no explosives, no tools of any kind. They even banned our basic equipment." Dongwoo's voice got quieter. "The official statement says human weapons are too primitive and dangerous for civilized combat." Through the ship's communication system, they could hear news reports from across the galaxy. A reporter with a voice like grinding metal was explaining the situation to viewers. The human species requested permission to join the championships last year. After reviewing their military history, the council decided their weapons technology was unsuitable for modern combat sports. Energy weapons remain legal for species with natural bioelectric abilities. Claw weapons are permitted for those born with them. But projectile weapons, blade weapons, and what humans call explosives have all been specifically prohibited. Hannah laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "They think they are protecting everyone from us." Namjoon, their weapons expert, floated up from the cargo bay where he had been checking their equipment one last time. "I just got word from Earth Command. They're calling us back. The military says this is impossible to win." Through the window, Jinho could see other species preparing for the tournament. The Veltari warriors were testing their bioelectric weapons, shooting lightning between their hands. Caraxian fighters were sharpening claws that could cut through tank armor. Massive hegemony soldiers were calibrating plasma cannons built directly into their arms. "The betting pools are not even taking bets on human wins," reported Minho, their analyst. He had spent months studying footage of every species they might face. "The odds are so bad that the gambling stations say it would be theft to accept money." Sujin, the youngest member of their team, pushed off from the wall to join them. At 22, she had been Earth's mixed martial arts champion before volunteering for this mission. "So we are going to fight the galaxy's best warriors and we cannot use any weapons?" "That is correct," Jinho said. "And everyone thinks we will lose in the first round?" "Also correct." She grinned. "Perfect." The ship shuddered as it connected with the docking bay. Through the metal walls, they could hear the sounds of the arena, crowds cheering, weapons charging, and the deep rumble of the energy shields that would contain the fights. Taemin, their military specialist, was reading intelligence reports about their first opponents. The Venix Collective. Silicon-based life forms. Average height 4 meters. Natural armor that stops most projectile weapons. They fight using crystal spears that they grow from their own bodies and launch at high speed. Weaknesses? Jinho asked. Unknown. No one has ever gotten close enough to find out. As they prepared to leave the ship, Dr. Unisio ran final medical checks on each team member. She was not a fighter, but every team needed a doctor, and she was the best Earth had. Your bone density is good, muscle fiber looks healthy, reflexes are normal for humans. You are as ready as I can make you. The cargo bay doors opened and they got their first real look at the other species. Creatures that looked like walking weapons moved through the corridors. Some had arms that ended in energy cannons. Others had skin that glowed with deadly radiation. A few were so large that the hallways had to be expanded just for them to fit. The humans walked among them carrying nothing but small bags of basic supplies. A group of reporters surrounded them immediately. Commander Kim, why are you proceeding when your own military suggests withdrawal? Do you have some secret weapon that can compete with advanced galactic technology? Jinho looked at his small team, 5 humans with no weapons, no armor, and no natural advantages that anyone could see. They were about to face creatures that had been designed by evolution or technology to be perfect killing machines. We will find out, he said simply. The first matches would begin tomorrow. Across the galaxy, billions of beings prepared to watch what many expected would be the shortest championship appearance in tournament history. The medical bay of the Grand Arena looked like a museum of alien biology. Creatures with 6 arms stretched on examination tables while doctors with tentacles instead of fingers checked their health. Warriors made of living metal had their systems tested by machines that sparked and hummed. In one corner, a fighter who seemed to be made of pure energy floated in a containment field while specialists measured its power levels. Dr. Eunice O looked tiny among all these giants, but she moved with calm confidence as she supervised her team's medical checks. The alien doctors kept staring at the human readings with confusion. "This is very strange," said the chief medical officer, a creature with 4 eyes and skin like blue glass. "Your species has such dense bones, but you are so small. And these muscle patterns, I have never seen anything like this. How do you generate power with such compact frames?" Namjoon was doing simple stretching exercises while the scanners analyzed his body. Around him, other species were showing off their natural weapons. A Caraxian warrior extended razor-sharp claws that gleamed under the bright lights. A Veltari soldier generated electrical sparks that danced between its fingers. A massive hegemony fighter activated weapon systems built into its arms, and the air filled with the whine of charging energy. The humans did push-ups and jumping jacks. "Look at them," a sports reporter was saying to his camera crew. "They are so ordinary. No claws, no energy weapons, no obvious physical advantages. Their bones are thick, yes, but they move slowly compared to most fighting species. How did creatures like this even survive on their home planet?" Sujin finished her fitness tests and joined the others in the team area. She had been watching the alien fighters train, studying how they moved and attacked. Most of them seemed to rely heavily on their natural weapons or built-in technology. Very few showed any signs of hand-to-hand combat training. "The match schedule is posted," announced Minho reading from his data pad. "First round we face the Nix Collective. They are silicon-based, incredibly strong, and they fight using crystal weapons they grow from their own bodies. The crystals can pierce starship armor. And we fight them with what?" asked Taemin. "Our hands," Jinho said simply. The arena's main chamber was filling with spectators. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds crowded into seats, all eager to see the tournament. The human section was almost empty. Earth's government had sent only a few essential people, not expecting their team to survive long enough to need much support. On the massive screens around the arena, highlights from previous tournaments played on endless loops. Legendary warriors wielding impossible weapons, species-defining moments of combat, and the evolution of galactic fighting culture over thousands of years. Every clip showed advanced weapons, energy shields, and technological marvels. None showed anyone fighting with bare hands. Jinho gathered his team in their small preparation room. Unlike other teams who had weapon maintenance areas filled with charging stations and repair equipment, the human room contained only basic exercise equipment and medical supplies. "Remember what we practiced back on Earth," he told them. "Every creature we studied has weak points. They all have joints, pressure points, or vital areas that can be targeted. The key is getting close enough to use what we know. Most importantly," added Hannah, adjusting her simple protective gear, "they have never faced anything like us. They do not know what humans can do because they have forgotten that fighting existed before energy weapons." Through the walls, they could hear the crowd getting excited as the opening ceremony began. Announcers in dozens of languages were explaining the rules and introducing the favored champions. When they mentioned the human team, the response was mostly laughter or confused murmurs. "Betting odds show humans at 847 to 1 against advancing past the first round," reported one announcer. "Most gambling establishments have refused to accept bets on human victory, calling it mathematical impossibility." The first match was announced. Namjoon would face Crystalline Prime Vorthak, the Nix champion who had never lost a tournament fight. As Namjoon walked toward the arena entrance, he could hear the crowd's reaction, a mixture of anticipation and pity. The tunnel leading to the fighting area was lined with screens showing his opponent. Vorthak stood nearly 4 meters tall, his body made of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns. Biomechanical launchers emerged from his shoulders, loaded with razor-sharp projectiles that could punch through tank armor. His victory record was perfect: 47 wins, 0 losses, most fights ending in under 30 seconds. Namjoon cracked his knuckles and rolled his shoulders. He wore simple gray combat clothing with basic protective padding. No weapons, no armor, no technological enhancements of any kind. As he stepped into the bright lights of the arena, the noise from the crowd was overwhelming. Beings from across the galaxy were cheering for what most expected to be a quick, one-sided demonstration of why humans did not belong in galactic combat sports. On the opposite side of the arena, Vorthak emerged from his entrance tunnel. The Crystal Giant's weapon systems activated with mechanical precision, targeting lasers painting red dots across the fighting area. The referee, a neutral AI that had overseen thousands of matches, announced the fighters and ran through the rules. Then came the words that would start the match. Combatants ready. Begin. The arena floor vibrated as Crystalline Prime Vorthak took his fighting position. The massive the Nyx warrior looked like a walking mountain of living crystal, his body reflecting the arena lights in brilliant rainbow patterns. Each step he took left small cracks in the reinforced floor beneath his feet. Namjoon looked impossibly small standing across from him. The human wore simple gray clothing and basic protective gear. No weapons, no armor, no visible technology of any kind. To the thousands of spectators watching, he appeared to be a mouse preparing to fight a dragon. This is unprecedented in tournament history, the main announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. Crystalline Prime Vorthak has destroyed every opponent he has faced. His crystal projectiles can pierce Class 7 starship armor. His opponent is a human carrying nothing but confidence. The starting bell rang with a deep, resonating tone. Vorthak immediately raised his arm-mounted launchers and fired. Crystal shards the size of spears shot across the arena at incredible speed, leaving trails of light behind them. The projectiles hit the spot where Namjoon had been standing and exploded into the wall, leaving deep craters in the reinforced metal. But Namjoon was no longer there. The human had thrown himself sideways the instant the bell rang, rolling behind a piece of arena debris. More crystal spears followed, each one missing by inches as Namjoon moved in unpredictable patterns. The crowd cheered as the humans scrambled for cover, apparently confirming their expectations of a quick hunt. But observers with military training began to notice something strange. Namjoon was not running away from his opponent, he was moving closer. Using broken pieces of the arena floor and scattered equipment for cover, the human advanced in a zigzag pattern that made no sense to most watchers. Several crystal shards hit him, drawing blood and tearing his clothing, but he did not slow down. He absorbed the hits and kept moving forward. Vorthak had never faced an opponent who advanced into his weapon fire. Every creature he had fought before either tried to match his long-range attacks or retreated to a safe distance to plan their assault. This small human was doing something completely different, something that made no tactical sense. When Namjoon reached close range, Vorthak discovered the first major weakness of his fighting style. His crystal launchers were designed for long-distance combat. They could not target anything directly underneath him. The human's first attack was a precise uppercut to what human intelligence had identified as the Nyx species' primary sensor cluster, a collection of crystal formations near the top of Vorthak's body that served as eyes and ears. The blow, delivered with proper boxing technique and enhanced by the arena's lower gravity, cracked the delicate crystal structures. Vorthak staggered backward, temporarily blinded. "Impossible," gasped a commentator. "The human has actually damaged the Nyx warrior using only his bare hands." Namjoon did not pause to celebrate. While Vorthak was disoriented, the human wrapped both arms around the giant's massive leg and executed a wrestling takedown that he had practiced 10,000 times in Earth's training facilities. The technique used leverage and momentum rather than strength, and it worked exactly as designed. The mighty Crystalline Prime crashed to the arena floor with a sound like breaking glass. The impact damaged several of his weapon systems and scattered crystal fragments across the fighting area. The crowd fell completely silent. On the ground, Vorthak's size advantage became meaningless. Namjoon used joint locks and pressure techniques that worked on any creature with articulated limbs. He applied force to connection points that were vulnerable regardless of what species they belonged to. Within minutes, the giant the Nyx warrior was forced to tap out in submission. The arena erupted in confused noise. Beings from hundreds of worlds tried to understand what they had just witnessed. According to every computer model and expert analysis, this result was impossible. The second match began almost immediately. Sujin faced a Veltari shock trooper, a creature made of pure energy that could generate electrical discharges powerful enough to stop a charging war beast. The energy being materialized in the center of the arena, crackling with deadly power. Sujin had studied the footage carefully. She knew the Veltari species had one critical weakness: they needed time to recharge between attacks. She also knew that their electrical discharges could be grounded using the arena's metal fixtures. When the Veltari warrior launched its first lightning attack, Sujin was already moving. She used the metal railings and support structures to channel the electricity safely away from her body while closing the distance. The energy being, confused by an opponent who was not paralyzed or killed by its primary weapon, kept firing until its power reserves were depleted. Then Sujin demonstrated something the galaxy had never seen before: grappling techniques that could work on creatures made of energy. Using principles of physics that applied to all matter, she managed to pin the weakened Veltari until it could no longer maintain solid form. 2 human victories. The crowd was no longer laughing. Taemin's fight against the Caraxian champion was the most brutal yet. The Caraxian warrior was faster, stronger, and armed with natural claws that could slice through metal. Taemin absorbed terrible punishment, his body accumulating cuts and bruises that would have stopped most fighters. But he kept advancing, kept adapting, kept learning from each exchange. When he finally managed to get behind the Caraxian and apply a sleeper hold that cut off oxygen to its brain, the warrior collapsed within seconds. 3 impossible human victories. As the preliminary rounds concluded, news broadcasts across the galaxy scrambled to explain what was happening. Military experts who had dismissed humans as a minor species began requesting emergency briefings on Earth's combat capabilities. In their preparation room, Dr. Unisio worked frantically to patch up her team's injuries while they prepared for the next round. The humans had advanced, but now the galaxy was paying attention. "They will not underestimate us again," warned Hannah. The atmosphere in the Grand Arena had changed completely by the time the quarterfinal rounds began. Where human matches had once been considered amusing sideshows, they were now the main attraction. Every seat was filled, and security had to control crowds of reporters trying to get interviews with the human team. Captain Park Dongwoo stood in front of a large holographic display in the team's strategy room. The 3-dimensional images showed their next opponents in perfect detail: the Hegemony Assault Corps, a squad of biomechanically enhanced warriors who had won the team championship for the past 10 years. "They have been studying our fights," Dongwoo explained to his teammates. "Look at these changes in their tactics. They are staying further away from their enemies now. They are using coordinated fire patterns to keep opponents at distance. And they have modified their weapon systems for close combat." Jinho examined the footage of the Hegemony team's recent victories. Each warrior stood over 2 meters tall, their bodies a perfect fusion of organic muscle and military-grade technology. Plasma cannons were built directly into their arms. Their skin was reinforced with metal plates that could stop most attacks. Neural interfaces connected their brains directly to targeting computers. "They are learning," observed Hannah. "But they are still thinking like weapons specialists. Watch how they move, every step is planned around using their equipment. They have never learned to fight without their technology." The human team had spent the week doing something that no other species had considered necessary. They had adapted their fighting techniques specifically for each upcoming opponent. Minho had identified the cybernetic connection points that linked the Hegemony warriors to their weapon systems. Sujin had developed grappling methods designed to exploit the mobility problems created by heavy mechanical augmentations. "The most important thing we discovered," Dr. Unisio explained while reviewing anatomical charts, "is that every species we have faced has built their fighting style around their weapons. Their entire way of thinking about combat assumes they will use technology. When you remove that assumption, they do not know how to fight," finished Taemin. The quarterfinal match began exactly as expected. The Hegemony team executed a perfect suppression attack, their energy weapons lighting up the arena as they established overlapping fields of fire. This was textbook galactic combat: use superior firepower to control the battlefield and eliminate enemies from safe distances. The tactic should have pinned the humans in a crossfire that would end the match in seconds. Instead, the humans did something that had never been seen in tournament history: they disappeared. Using maintenance tunnels and service passages that other species had never even noticed, Namjoon and his teammates vanished beneath the arena floor. The Hegemony warriors, trained for open battlefield combat, suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight according to established rules. The first Hegemony warrior fell when Jinho emerged from a ventilation opening directly behind him. Before the warrior could turn his massive weapons around, a sleeper hold applied to the organic portion of his neck bypassed all cybernetic defenses and shut down his brain's oxygen supply. The second warrior fell to Sujin's joint manipulation techniques. She had studied the connection points between organic limbs and mechanical augmentations, finding weak spots that no engineer had thought to protect. When she twisted the warrior's arm at precisely the right angle, his entire weapon system separated from his body. "This is completely unprecedented," shouted the main announcer, his voice cracking with excitement. The humans are using the arena structure itself as a tactical advantage. They are fighting a three-dimensional battle while their opponents remain focused on two-dimensional combat patterns. But the moment that shocked the galaxy came when Hannah faced the Hegemony team commander in direct combat. The warrior's arm-mounted plasma cannon should have vaporized her instantly. The weapon was designed to destroy armored vehicles. Instead, Hannah used a technique that was thousands of years old on Earth. She grabbed the warrior's weapon arm and used his own attacking motion to redirect the plasma blast into his teammate's position. The Hegemony commander, relying on computer-assisted targeting, had never learned to compensate for an opponent who could physically control where his weapons pointed. The Hegemony Assault Corps, masters of technological warfare, fell to humans using fighting methods that existed before space travel was invented. In the post-match interviews, galactic military experts struggled to explain what they had witnessed. It appears that while we have been perfecting our weapons, observed one famous strategist, they have been perfecting themselves as weapons. The human team advanced to the semi-finals, but victory had come at a high price. They were injured, exhausted, and now facing opponents who understood exactly how dangerous they were. In the medical bay, Dr. Unisio worked to keep her team functional while Minho delivered troubling news about their next opponents. The apex predators were not just another warrior species, they were the result of millions of years of evolution specifically designed for killing. They have natural armor that can deflect energy weapons, Minho explained grimly. Reflexes faster than most species can think. Claws that can cut through starship hulls. And they have been studying our techniques. They know what we are capable of now. Jinho looked at his battered team and managed to smile. Then we will have to show them something they have not seen yet. After all, adapting to new threats is what humans do best. The semi-final match would determine whether humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn and change, could overcome nature's most perfect predators. The grand arena had never seen a crowd like this before. Every seat was filled with beings from across the galaxy, while billions more watched on screens throughout known space. What had started as a curiosity had become the most important sporting event in galactic history. The semi-final match between humans and the apex predators was no longer just about fighting, it was about two completely different ideas of what it meant to be a warrior. The apex predators entered the arena like living nightmares. Each member of their species was the result of millions of years of natural selection focused entirely on killing. Their leader, Prime Hunter Kexthera, moved with fluid grace that made watching her both beautiful and terrifying. Her reflexes were faster than most computers could track. Her natural armor could deflect plasma weapons. Her claws could slice through the hull of a battleship. The human team looked pathetic in comparison. 5 small beings in simple clothing, carrying no weapons, showing no obvious advantages that anyone could see. They were bruised and bandaged from previous fights, moving slowly compared to the perfect killing machines they faced. The contrast could not be more extreme, observed the lead commentator. On one side, evolution's ultimate predators. On the other, a species that by all logic should have been extinct long before they reached the stars. Jinho gathered his team in their starting circle. Around them, the arena's energy barriers activated, ready to contain what everyone expected to be the most violent match in tournament history. Remember, he said quietly, they are faster, stronger, and better armed than anything we have faced. But they have never encountered human warfare. The starting bell rang across the arena. The apex predators moved like liquid death, executing a coordinated assault that should have overwhelmed any opponent in seconds. Their attack was perfect, each predator covering the others, no wasted motion, no obvious weaknesses. But when their claws and fangs struck, the humans were not there. The human team had scattered according to a pattern that made no sense to observers. They seemed to be running in panic, each one going in a different direction. The crowd cheered as the apex predators pursued what looked like easy prey. Then something strange happened. The predators found themselves being herded. Without realizing it, they were being moved into positions where their natural coordination worked against them. Sujin appeared from behind a piece of arena debris and launched what seemed like a suicide attack on Kexthera. The Prime Hunter's claws should have torn the human apart. Instead, Sujin used the predator's own attacking speed against her. She grabbed Kexthera's striking arm and redirected the claw attack into another apex warrior, causing the predators to wound their own teammate. Taemin faced 2 apex hunters at the same time, which should have been impossible for any single fighter. Instead of trying to match their incredible speed, he did something different. He moved to where they were going to be, not where they were. His military training had taught him to read body language and predict attacks, skills that worked regardless of what species he was fighting. The crowd watched in amazement as Namjoon demonstrated why humans had survived everything their deadly homeworld could throw at them. When an apex warrior's claws raked across his chest, opening deep wounds, he did not retreat. He advanced, using the pain to fuel his anger, absorbing damage to land critical strikes on weak points his team had studied for weeks. But the moment that defined the entire match came when Hannah faced Kexthera in single combat. The Prime Hunter represented everything that natural selection could create. She was faster than human reflexes, stronger than human muscles, and armed with claws that could cut through metal like paper. She had never lost a fight. She had never even been seriously injured. The battle should have ended in seconds. Instead, it became a demonstration of humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to think while fighting. Hannah used everything around her as a tool. Arena obstacles became shields and weapons. She turned the environment itself into an advantage. Most importantly, she exploited something the apex predators had never encountered, an opponent who could analyze their attack patterns and adapt in real time. Kexthera relied on millions of years of evolved hunting instincts. Her attacks followed patterns that had been perfected over countless generations. Against any natural prey, these patterns were unbeatable. But Hannah was not natural prey. She was a human warrior who had spent her entire life learning to fight thinking opponents. She recognized the patterns, predicted the attacks, and positioned herself to counter them. When Kexthera lunged for what should have been a killing strike, Hannah was not there. She had moved to exactly the right position to wrap her arms around the predator's neck and apply a blood choke that cut off circulation to the brain. The mighty Kexthera, the result of millions of years of evolutionary perfection, fell unconscious in the arms of a creature she should have killed without effort. The arena exploded in chaos. Across the galaxy, military leaders scrambled to understand what they had witnessed. Species that had built their entire civilizations around advanced technology watched in shock as humans advanced to the championship match using nothing but intelligence, adaptability, and fighting skills refined through thousands of years of survival. In the preparation room, Dr. Eunicio worked desperately to keep her team ready for the final match. Jinho looked at his warriors, battered, bleeding, but unbroken. "One more fight," he told them. "The Eternal Champions have held the title for 800 years. They have never been defeated." Sujin smiled through her injuries. "Then they have never fought humans. The final match would determine humanity's place in the galaxy."